Did you ever ask yourself if the frenzied flame is honest? Because it's one of the outer gods of Elden Ring, and it communicates with you a couple of times. Once through the vessel of Hyetta, and once through the vessel of Yura when his body was possessed by Shabriri. And Shabriri is the one whose honesty I want to question because the little conversation that you have with him in the mountaintops of the giants is kind of funny. He tries to persuade you to seek out the frenzied flame and inherit the power of its fire by appealing to your sense of righteousness and mercy. He knows that you're about to sacrifice the life of Melina in order to burn down the Erd Tree, and he tells you that she can actually be saved if you would only use your own body to inherit the Flame of Frenzy, because that too would give you the power to burn down the Erd Tree without Melina's help. And then Shabriri adds that inheriting the Flame of Frenzy would actually be the righteous course of action in this particular context, because sacrificing the life of a maiden like Melina would delegitimize your claim to lordship. It would make you no lord at all, because it is shameful to throw your maiden to the flames if only for the sake of power. And that is the reason why instead you should seek out the Flame of Frenzy. You should do it partly as an expression of mercy for someone that you love, and partly as an expression of the righteousness that befits a true lord. But the funny thing about this little story is that it leaves out some very important details. Shabriri conveniently fails to mention that if you inherit the Flame of Frenzy, you will also trigger an apocalyptic event the moment that you claim the Elden Ring. Your body will be taken over by the Flame of Frenzy, and you will be tasked with the role of incinerating all life, including the life of Melina, this maiden who you're supposedly trying to save. And this means that Melina dies no matter what you do. She dies if she sacrifices herself to burn the Erd Tree, and she dies if you follow Shabriri's advice and inherit the Flame of Frenzy. Or at the very least, she dies if she doesn't kill you first, which she also promises to do if you do take the path of the Flame of Frenzy. But either way, there's this question of whether Shabriri is trying to deceive you when he leaves out all of this critical information. Does he actually care about mercy and righteousness? Is he just manipulating you? I want to give you my interpretation of these questions. I actually think that Shabriri is being honest in his own way as he talks to you on behalf of the Frenzied Flame. And the key to understanding this is to notice the way that he appeals to your sense of mercy and righteousness when he tries to get you to save Melina's life. Because the Flame of Frenzy has actually contrived a broader plan that will make you meet a second person after Shabriri that's going to reveal the whole truth about its intentions. This second person is Hyetta, who you meet on the doorstep of the Flame of Frenzy's own domain in the depths beneath Leyndell. Hyetta delivers a message from the Frenzied Flame, which tells you that you are indeed going to trigger an apocalypse. But it also tells you why doing this is actually a good thing. It turns out that the Flame of Frenzy is the original god of all reality, and at the beginning of time it existed by itself as a being called the One Great. But then some kind of accident occurred in which the One Great was fractured into millions and millions of pieces, and each of these pieces gave rise to an individual life. And all of those lives together coalesced into the world of the present, which is full of all of the many living beings that you see with your own eyes. But the thing that you have to understand is that this was a terrible accident, because the life of all those tiny fractured pieces is defined by pain and suffering and sin. And the One Great wants you to alleviate all of this pain and suffering that it has brought into the world. And the only way to do that is to use its power to melt all life away, to inherit the Frenzied Flame and burn away the world in a final conflagration. And the deep truth about this act, which the One Great needs you to understand, is that it isn't an act of evil as it would appear to be to most people. Instead, it is an act of mercy, of ultimate mercy, divine righteousness. It is the highest form of good, and that is because it's the ultimate end of evil, a cleansing of pain and suffering from the world that will restore it to its original condition of perfect peace. And all of this is the reason why I don't think that Shabriri was actually trying to deceive you on the mountaintops of the giants, when he tried to persuade you to seek out the Frenzied Flame instead of sacrificing Melina. It's true that he wanted you to think that you could save Melina's life. And it's true that that was strictly speaking a lie, because in the end, everyone was going to die if you followed his advice. But the important thing is that he tried to do it by speaking to your sense of mercy and righteousness. Because when you do finally reach the domain of the Frenzied Flame and have the entire truth revealed to you by Hyetta, you would then be initiated into a higher kind of mercy and righteousness, indeed, the highest mercy and righteousness of all, in which you would bring a permanent end of evil to all of those who suffer. And Shabriri was simply offering a kind of stepping stone. He appealed to a human sense of mercy that already lived inside your heart as a kind of preparation for the divine mercy of the One Great whose chaos would take the world and end its pain forever.